Just like we have healing masters and guides,
Right.
there were a group of beings there called the entities and the entities of light. And their mission is to help individuals with their evolution and their healing.
How does our soul get our attention? And oftentimes it's through those physical symptoms that they're not going to go away. You're not going to be able to address them just with the supplement or the pharmaceutical. It's got to be addressed on that deeper soul and spirit level.
I think that's a lot of what people are wanting now, just a lot of love and grounding and rebalancing.
Hello and welcome to the Higher Vibe. I'm Jean Roorda, your host, and we're having conversations with psychic friends. Today I have with me Brooke LeClaire. She's a clairvoyant reader and healer. Hello, Brooke.
Hi, Jean. It's so
Hi.
nice to see you.
It's so good to see you again. It's been years. It's a joy to have you here.
Thank you.
I
It's
love
really
it.
wonderful to be back.
Yes, I love that we get to catch up and share our stories. So I would love to hear how you got started on your spiritual path. What first inspired you in your interest in clairvoyance, energy work, spiritual work?
Yeah, so mine's kind of a two-parter. So when I was very little, we'll say like 3 and 4 years of age, just as a little girl, I would go on calls with my dad, who was a veterinarian, and
Oh,
he did large and small animal. And so on the large animal calls, oftentimes he would be treating maybe a cow or a sheep or some kind of animal. And I would go in the barn. And at that time, farmers would have a lot of feral cats
yeah,
to help with the mice population.
yeah.
And just naturally, I would just sit quietly with the cats and watch them. And I would end up inevitably holding a cat in my hands, petting it, and then checking to see where my dad was. And the
Yeah.
farmer would say, "Oh my God, no one's ever caught that cat."
Aw.
So inherently, that was just one of the gifts I came in with. And it
Yeah.
was just so easy to telepathically communicate with them and to match my energy with them that I thought everyone could do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially at that age, you're like, what,
Yeah.
nobody else does this?
Yeah, and my dad seemed to, he had a really good rapport with animals. So it
Yeah.
seemed like he was also doing that. So that was just a thing I did with my dad.
Yeah.
And then I went to school and I focused on, socialization and doing things with friends and schoolwork and all those other things. And I just kind of let that go.
Yeah.
And then when I was in college, I started having some spiritual awakenings.
Mhm.
And after college, I started meditating, and it really became clear to me that I wanted to do something to help people. So
Yeah.
I went to massage school, and then I went to a biodynamic craniosacral therapy training. And as I was practicing that, people started having experiences energetically that I didn't know how to name. They were outside of the context of my training. And now we would say maybe a past life was starting to come in, or something out in the field was starting to appear.
Right.
So I went to Psychic Horizons in Boulder to learn how to identify and work with that energy so that I could help my clients
Yeah.
and discover that for myself.
Yeah. And really give a context to what's going on here.
Yeah.
That's
And
great.
I absolutely loved my training there. I think Mary Bell said at one point there was like 3 or 3.5 years, and I did every single thing I possibly could.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just took it all in. Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't want it to end. And then Michael started his training. So
Yeah.
then we got to do that together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Magical years. Magical time.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really wonderful.
Wonderful. So one of your first kind of aha moments was when someone pointed out to you as a child that not everybody can communicate with animals or, connect with them in that way. They just naturally trust you and open up to you. And then later on with people, just naturally trusting and opening. And you were seeing energy. But it's great that you got training, right? I think there's so many people who are just naturally psychically sensitive, psychically aware, attune to energy, but then without that context or that framework or that language or understanding, what is really going on here? What is this ability? Where is it located in my space, so to speak? And how can I really use it in a more conscious way? It's so helpful to have that
Yeah.
guidance and training and language for it.
I agree. And, especially in the early years, they were really helping us to turn down the lower chakras. So a lot of people who are connected with animals, we're feeling them.
Right.
So our clairsentience or our empathy, our feeling is heightened. And that can be really hard going through the world, not understanding that particular ability. So it was really helpful for me to learn how to turn that down and then use my clairvoyance, that sixth chakra, to help get some neutrality with things. That was yeah. I thought that was
clarity and discernment. Because when it's just the second chakra navigating, there's a lot of information, but there's not that discernment of what's what, right? It's kind of a soup of abundant feeling.
And what's you and what's me?
Right.
People don't really know.
Right. It just becomes all you, and then it becomes overwhelming. Yeah, great.
Indeed.
Yeah, so then what came up for you? How did your life change after you acquired those tools and connected with your psychic awareness in a new way? What was your...
I think I've been really developed like over time, step by step by step, just in a really nice, like nothing off the charts happened. I didn't start channeling, out of the blue or anything. But my trainings, right? I mean, that happens to people now, especially now you hear about that.
Yeah.
They're like, I was an accountant and then I started channeling this, this group or something.
Right.
Yeah. And their whole life changes.
Yeah.
But for me, I just progressed. I did the biodynamic craniosacral therapy, and then I did the psychic tools, and then I did Michael's tools, and then I did the transmedium program. And then that just led me to Brazil, where I studied as a medium. And in that training, you're sort of working with whatever your inherent soul abilities are. And so in that system, they would say there are 35 different ways to express your mediumship.
Just a couple.
That's a lot. And so during that time, I wasn't doing hands-on healing. So I was doing a lot of developing my claircognizance and the clairaudience.
Yeah.
So we were working with a group of beings, just like we have healing masters and guides.
Right.
There were a group of beings there called the entities and the entities of light. And their mission is to help individuals with their evolution and their healing.
Yeah.
So they would talk to us. And it's a common thing there. Anyone who has spent a lot of time there has at one point said, well, the entities told me, or the entities called me back. And everyone knows what that means.
Yeah. Love it.
Common thing. And then the discernment got really strong when you start, everyone was starting to develop as a medium. And when they would tell you, as they were starting to get into their power, they wanted to practice, and they would tell you what to do or what the rule was. And you got really good at looking at, well, who is this person telling me this? Is this someone I want to give my authority over to?
Yeah, because that's so important in developing mediumship, is that seniority and that discernment. So it's not just any old being coming through, right?
No. Who do I want to share my energy with? And do I want to follow that instruction or not? And some people, you just learn, thank you. Thank you, but no thank you.
Yeah. You can be kind about it, right?
Very, very kind, but I'm glad that works.
Knowing that it's you have the final say, right? Because if they're channeling through your space, through your energy field, you get to discern and decide who or what you're bringing through, what information you're sharing. And
there's a funny dynamic there where the entities are working with you energetically, and energy is flowing through you, and your heart is big, and there's a big emphasis on being in service.
Yeah.
So you'll find people that were very closed off the first week after they've had perhaps an operation or sat in current a certain amount of times, then worked with. That's what I'm referring to, been worked with. their
Right.
heart would open, and
Yeah.
they would be pushing wheelchairs and opening doors for people and letting people
Yeah.
go at first. And so that's a lovely part of service. And then you also have to learn boundaries. So the
Yeah.
discernment was really important on how much do I give, what is mine and what is theirs. And all of those were beautiful lessons there.
Psychic boundaries, so important, and all that
Yeah.
discernment. So tell me more about this place. This is Abadiânia, right, in Brazil. Did I pronounce that right?
Close. Abadiânia.
Abadiânia. I can't say it.
Perfect. Perfect.
This is my American pronunciation.
Well, I have it too. So any
Any
Brazilians, we apologize. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us more about, I'm not going to be able to say it right now, Abadiânia. It's going to make me laugh every time I say it.
And that's what's fun about it.
Place. Like, where is it? And do people still go there? Is it still a thing?
It is way scaled down.
Yeah.
So to get there, you would fly into Brasilia, and then you would take a taxi just about an hour and 15 minutes south into the little town. And we shorten it, we call it ABBA. So that might be it. That's an easy way.
So from now on, we're just going to say
Yeah. We call it ABBA. And or we say we're going to Brazil to the casa, because a lot of people can't say that word. So now it's on bare bones. There was something that happened in later 2018 where the whole thing had gotten really big, and then it sort of blew up, as happens in these kind of communities. So now the old volunteers that have been part of it for 20, 30, 40 years, they're going to do that mission until they die. That is their thing. And the people like me who would be considered the family, like the Casa brothers and sisters, we came from all over the world. But for us, there was something, we were the ones saying, oh, they're calling me back. And we were the ones that they were developing more as mediums. Yeah. And then we would take that big open heart back home and work with people as a better person than we were before. So they were using, they were using us to develop us. And we who still really have a connection to the entities, where we hear them, they give us very specific directions on what to do, what not to do, all kinds of learnings and all kinds of tips and healings, and those types of people still go back. So I would call them the Casa family, or the big meditators. The people, one of my girlfriends says, the people who don't need to be told what to do. So the ones that weren't drawn to Medium Joao and his part there. Yeah. Yeah.
So then you've continued that work after many years. It sounds like you went back and forth to ABBA.
Yeah.
I like that there's a shorter version of that word.
Yeah.
And just really practiced and developed your mediumship and that discernment and boundaries and awareness. And then you get to take it back into your world here in the US. So how did that support and inform your next steps in terms of your work as a healer and a clairvoyant? Do you still work with the entities?
Yes, I do. I run my energy every day, which is a practice that we learned in our clairvoyant program. And then I also add in elements of what I learned in Brazil. So I think for lots of us, we end up having a mix of modalities, or a mix of how we integrate things for ourselves.
Yeah.
So I will bring the entities in when I work with people and just sort of elevate the energy so that it's the most pure, beautiful bubble of love and support.
Yeah.
So that we can be the most effective healers and readers, and give people a lot of love. Like, I think that's a lot of what people are wanting now. Just a lot of love and grounding and rebalancing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. That's what we all need. Lots of love. And to really experience that in that pure way, like you said, working with the entities helps bring in that purity of love, because a lot of times in our world, we've experienced more distorted versions of that. And there's a lot of people who haven't experienced that purity of love. It's coming through. There's love, but then there's all this other stuff that comes through, maybe in people's experience with relationships, with with people, with family. Maybe the pure love someone experiences is with pets often, you know?
A lot of times that's the only, that is the one resource that they have for that.
Yeah.
And in ABBA, like some of the experiences that, is it okay if I share some
Yeah,
experiences?
I'd love to hear about your experiences there.
So one of the beautiful ways of healing and that love and support came in. Oftentimes there would be maybe 10 of us at a table having coffee after current. And current is where you sit in meditation, sometimes from 2 to 6 hours, sometimes a very, very long time. And so afterwards, everybody wants a snack or it's hot. You know, they want like acai or something. And we're just connecting with friends. And over time, I would just meet people from all over the world.
Yeah.
And at times there would be 10 of us at the table and I was the only American.
Yeah.
And we had all studied the same things. Like everyone had read the same spiritual books.
Wow.
We all knew Ho'oponopono. We all liked the same teachers. We all felt energy. It was the most remarkable feeling of love and support and belonging
Yeah.
that it felt like home.
Yeah.
So that piece was very healing for me.
Yeah.
And
Like
then
the
there,
spiritual community that formed, and just the miracle to discover like all these people from so many different places have so much aligned in terms of interests and past study. That's beautiful.
and we were all the tough cases too. So we were the ones who, you know, some people couldn't be around an internet. Some people had to have the most restricted diet because their body just was rejecting everything under the sun. For some people, they had these horrible karmic things they were playing out, and so we all came from families that were quote unquote normal, and we just couldn't fit in. As hard as we tried, we were just the tough kid or the kid that didn't get it, or, you know, the sick kid, or and so there was some beautiful healing in that too, of that coming together and just noticing on some level the soul agreement was to heal those bits and pieces that other parts of the generational ancestry weren't even really aware of.
Right.
So
The
that was
like the lineage healers and the extra sensitives.
the extra sensitives.
Yeah, and to be able to find each other, you know, too, as souls, if you're incarnated in so many vastly different places on the planet, but you want to touch base, you know, and have that community for a while. How fun is that?
It was really great. So the vibration there was really high.
Yeah.
And so because most things are on one road, one dirt road, and that's where the casa is, where you go in the morning, and that's on that, somewhere on that road is probably where you're going to stay and have your little hotel room, and that's where you're going to eat, and that's where you're going to go shopping. And so you might think, I need to talk to Jean today. I need to ask her something.
Yeah.
And what we would do is we would go on that road, and then synchronicity would have you and I meet.
Yeah, you just cross paths.
And the synchronicity of life was just so heightened. And if you were, you know, working some part of your pattern, like I'm never going to get this, right? Maybe one of the distortions around love, I'm never going to figure this out. You would meet somebody by synchronicity who had either just solved that problem in themselves and could share what they learned, or you would meet somebody who was somewhere where you were, where you could do the journey together.
Yeah.
And time after time after time, that would happen. And so we began to realize, oh, that's one of those Abba things.
Yeah. Just how spirit led and directed the whole area and space. It's like a huge healing bubble where spirit's just really, that orchestration of spirit is just really palpable and alive. That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Have you experienced that in any other places? I wonder. Or were you able to take that awareness and that magic of that synchronicity and that miracle energy and kind of broaden the circle and bring it in other spaces as well?
Since 2018, when I decided to move back permanently to the US, that has been one of my missions or hobbies to bring that, to live that for me.
Yeah.
Here, to live that here, to be that vibration here.
Yeah.
And so I go to, in nature is where I get that. I've been cultivating that for some years now. So I try to start each day, if I can. Some days you can't, but I try to start most mornings out in nature because the day always goes better that way.
Yeah. It always goes better when we ground and center first. And nature is such a great healer and reminder of just being grounded and centered and
Yeah, and like
yeah.
the God in all things, or just that unity consciousness, or how we're all connected. Yeah, all of that.
It's so alive in nature. Thank goodness we have that anywhere on the planet. But I love that it's your mission and hobby to bring that to other places because it's possible, right? That was an area where you got to experience that, and a space you got to experience that, but just to know, oh, this is possible anywhere. Just bring that awareness and that consciousness to other areas and expand it out, create more bubbles of that around the world. Oh, that's wonderful. So then now in the work that you do as a healer and reader, and you still work with the entities sometime, is there anything else you want to share about how you work with people or how your experiences in Abba have informed your work or still come through in your work?
I have a handful of modalities. So I do our regular clairvoyant reading and healings for humans, and house healings and spaces, and then animal communication, of course.
Of course. That's what I was going to ask, was do you still work with animals? Of course.
Of course.
Yeah, that was your first love.
And then as a healer, I work on the table as a biodynamic craniosacral therapist. And over the past couple years, I have developed a combination of the craniosacral and the clairvoyant readings. So one of the ways that Abhijanya has informed me is when people would go there and have miracle healings. Cancers would go away. People who had had depression for decades would leave there happy. Just when you're living in an energy of miracles, it really does a very good job, especially year after year after year. And when you're doing, 2 currents a day, so you're sitting in meditation with your fear or your anger, or you're going off on some amazing journey, whatever that is.
Yeah.
So you could be doing that, 4 hours a day to 12 hours a day. That's a lot of training around sitting with what is.
Exactly. Like you're really having to just be with it rather than run away from it. All the fear.
I've had currents where my back is just killing me the whole time, and you just have to deal with it. And that's really it's a really good training. I think in our culture, we're used to, that thing, like you want that pill to take that thing away as quickly as possible. So it was good character building. We'll say that. It was very good character building.
And patience, just be with it.
Be with it.
This too shall pass.
Just be with it.
Yeah.
And so people were, some people wanted to go and have their miracle healing, but the people who did really well, for the most part, I will say, realized that their illness or whatever they came there with really was the door opening to their spiritual life.
Yeah.
It was a gateway into who they were becoming. And as they sat with all that fear or that discomfort or the unknowing or trying to trust that it's going to be okay when they've spent a lot of time not trusting that, they develop into a new version of themselves, usually an improved, more beautiful, loving, kind version of themselves. And so bringing that back around, you just start to see that there's always patterns underlying that thing, that illness that we're actually coming to get healed.
Right.
So kind of circling back to the session, I'm calling them medical intuitive healings, is that combination of the cranial and the clairvoyant, where you get kind of more of a holistic approach to somebody's illness and moving forward. And it's just so fulfilling. People are having crazy things happening now, like vertigo coming out of nowhere.
Right.
and they can hardly stand up, and it affects every day of their life,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and they can't find the solution. So there's a lot of need now for those of us who are kind of working in between the lines,
Yeah.
right? In those gray areas.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Right.
not always, the supplement or the drug is not always going to get it. Sometimes the spirit has something to say,
Yeah.
or that past life trauma or the karma really does need to be dealt with. So those sessions are really fulfilling, and they're quite fun.
Yeah, it's always fascinating to notice like how we get our attention, right? How does our soul get our attention? And oftentimes it's through those physical symptoms that they're not going to go away. You're not going to be able to address them just with the supplement or the pharmaceutical. It's got to be addressed on that deeper soul and spirit level, or it'll just come through in another form, But when we really get that level and take care of the soul and the body, that integrated holistic approach, as you mentioned, then not only do we get to relieve the symptoms, but we get to discover something about ourselves. That, our soul is really trying to get our attention, and so that we could bring in that awareness and that information, that healing of that soul trauma, or that release of that karma, or integration of a higher level of information of our being that we weren't aware of before. So important. I love that.
I agree.
Great work. That's where my attention naturally goes if there's a symptom in the body, is like, okay, what is this about? What is this energy? What is the information available here? What can I discover? But oftentimes if it's very painful or like totally disturbing, like you said with vertigo, I mean, that would just pretty much stop you in your tracks.
I know. It does, and it does stop them.
To figure it out and get rid of it so you can like function.
Well, and that's where having the tools, running your energy and being able to ground, that helps it helps everything. It helps everything. Yeah, it helps you to let go of where you can't be present with yourself, because a lot of the pain around the stuff is our resistance to it, and not wanting to look at it.
Resistance. Yeah, when you were talking about sitting in current for, 2 to 6 hours, I thought, well, that'll get you out of resistance. Because really, it's resistance is that wall that we all hit, It's like, okay, time's up. I just ran my energy for 10 minutes. That's enough,
Yeah.
But it's really these deeper layers of resistance that when you just continue to be with it, and then a whole nother layer of energy releases. So I love that people would just sit and be for that.
And then more of your authentic self comes out, and it's a really good way of, it kind of like cleanses. They would say, they just need to have their personality cleansed a bit, So when people, like when the tourists would first come, the ego is like, I want what I want, because they spent a lot of money to get there, and they came for their miracle, damn it,
Give me my miracle right now.
Yeah. And it doesn't work that way.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to let go for a while.
And allow. Yeah. You have to allow.
Yeah, and be, receptivity is such a different vibration to the gimme.
Completely.
Are you trying to get or receive, right? It's a big difference. Love that. You have to surrender the ego when you just sit and be with what is, especially for a long time.
Hours and hours. Yeah, and part of the experience there too is, we're riding bicycles. We're not driving cars.
Right.
We're not watching the news because none of us spoke Portuguese well enough or even had a TV.
Yeah.
And so, so there's not a lot to do.
Yeah. And
there's not a lot of
external input that we get even more now. In today's world, we have so much, I just call it TMI at this point.
TMI.
So much external information, always constantly bombarded with that. So I think it might be even more challenging now for someone to just sit and be with what is going on in their space, because there's always that, but what does my phone tell me right now?
Well, and the phone won't let you because it has all these alarms, and
you have to just have the willpower to turn the whole thing off, because it'll constantly distract you and tell you what's going on. So you have to look at that. You have to look at that. So that was a really special place, Abba, that bubble of kind of a buffer from the external world and all the usual distractions. Not only a buffer, but then also within the container, such a powerful, palpable vibration of miracle energy.
And also, because it was such a high vibration, if you had something you needed to clean up in yourself, maybe a personality trait that wasn't really serving you anymore, that would get so amplified
Yeah.
that you really couldn't get away with you couldn't, like, here
You
in
can avoid it, right? It's
you
just
can avoid it. You can make yourself really busy. You
right.
can get on your phone. You can do all kinds of call friends. You can do all kinds of distractions.
Yeah.
But there, it would not let you off the hook
Yeah.
until you actually met it.
You
And
couldn't avoid or deny that.
yeah, and a lot of people, we have just in general a lot of resistance.
Yeah.
Just in our energy, just a lot of resistance.
Yeah. Pretty much what all illness boils down to is various forms of resistance.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah. And it's the kind of thing that you don't notice until you start to look at it. And then, but wait, there's more. Another layer of resistance and another. It's a deep rabbit hole.
And more and more.
There's always more. It's just that deeper surrender every time. Another layer of surrender to deeper level of resistance. But there's always such a bright, clear, new, open space once you get past that layer of resistance. Yeah. What a gift that you got to experience that. And then you really know and can create that vibration in your own healing work.
Yeah, it's definitely taken some time for me to be able to hold it in all kinds of situations.
Right.
It's definitely taken practice, but it is possible.
Yeah.
It is possible.
Yeah.
And it's up and down and up and down, and you just keep at it. You just keep at it.
Just
yeah.
try again.
Try again.
And you learn about yourself. Like you said, in different circumstances, there might be some circumstances where it's easy to establish and ground that vibration, and then others, it's a little bit more resistance, a little bit more difficulty in establishing that. And then you get to see within yourself what vibrations there's more resistance to or more of a challenge.
Yeah, and where you want to hold your perception. So over time, I've just found that the higher my vibration is, the nicer life is. The easier things go, the more I'm in the synchronicity and the flow, the better everything goes. So it really behooves us, to run that energy and clear off whatever is not that high vibration, or go out in nature and get that back up again. So I think over time it's less, hills and valleys, and there's just more of that nice baseline. At least that's what I found over the years.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would validate that.
Yeah.
It's part of why I called this podcast The Higher Vibe. Is like, there is a lot of joy in this vibration. And what I like to point out is, being at that higher vibration, it doesn't mean you're avoiding the lower vibrations. It really means that you can have them, right? That there's less resistance. But not resisting them doesn't mean that you become them. It's quite the opposite. It's when you resist those lower vibrations that you become them and you match them. And then life is difficult and hard and a series of problems and struggles and a lot more effort. But when you can not resist that, but just consciously choose, actually, this is where I'd like to establish and be at, this vibration, this higher vibration where there's ease and there's joy and there's those synchronicities. I love the magic of the synchronicities. It's so fun, really, just to notice, wow, look how magical life can be. And then bringing in that miracle energy as well. It's a really high vibration. And like you said, it's all possible. Just looking at, wow, look what's possible, right? When we give ourselves permission and persistence, I would say, right?
Oh, definitely. It's not all easy. And some days, you just show up the best you can, and you give yourself a break. No perfect pictures here.
Yeah.
You show up the best you can in every day. And then you just love yourself and
keep at it, right?
And keep at it. Yeah, if anything, I would say just keeping at it.
Absolutely. Because it isn't easy. It's simple, but not easy, right? There's going to be those stumbling blocks and, oh, the energy just gets funky, and then you get to just be with it and look at it, let it go, run that energy, bring it
Blow
forward.
those roses.
Yep. It's all very rewarding. I would say for me, that's why I know that it's worth continuing on that path, even when there's deep challenges or struggles, because I know how rewarding it is, right? Because I've experienced those miracles and that joy that comes. So even if I'm in a challenging spot, sometimes we call that a growth period or an experience where things get a little bit more challenging or funky, or we're dealing with an illness or we're moving through some karmic pattern. I always know I'll just keep going.
Yeah.
Because it does clear, this too shall pass. It does open up again when that energy releases. And
And
yeah,
then I always find on the other, once you walk through it, on the other end, there's always more freedom.
yes,
I'm always happier. I'm always grateful that I stuck it out and went through
yeah,
it. And
yeah,
I always have more freedom.
yeah.
Um, and as a soul, I like that very much.
Oh, yes. I do too. I'm a big fan of freedom. And freedom, it really is a good barometer, right? For the growth. It's like, oh yeah, you can look around you and say, look how much more freedom I have in this area of my life that I used to be so really weighed down with limits, right? This certain areas of life used to have so many more limits, and then, oh yeah, there's more freedom here. And what else can I bring in? How much more freedom can I have? And then bring it into new areas of life.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a great
Yeah,
barometer.
really fun. It gets really fun.
It is. I'd say it gets more and more fun, and yeah, more and more freedom.
Yeah, I wouldn't say, I would say the challenges are getting harder. It's like, that peeling the onion, you're getting towards the core.
Yeah.
So the challenges are harder. I just moved my mom into assisted living,
Oh,
and
wow.
I had to do the research with her, and we had to pick the place, and I had to move her in
Yeah.
and do an estate sale and sell the house. And
Yeah.
all of that was a huge journey, lots and lots of challenges, but I have grown so much
Yeah.
from that. And our whole relationship has shifted out of it. It's
Great. Yeah.
it's incredible. It's nothing I would have ever wanted to do,
Right.
but right? I mean, who would? I mean, that's a lot of stuff. It
Yeah.
was very hard, and I was working full time, so it was quite
Oh
stressful.
gosh. Yeah. Just the logistics and the physical labor and the emotional. Yeah. All of it.
But the level of empowerment and what
Mhm.
you can actually accomplish it just was almost unfathomable, and how much help I got along the way.
Yes.
When I look back on it, people have reflected back on, like, how did you get that done in 4 months? And it
Wow.
was like, oh, I
Yeah.
really did do that. So that's where you have that hindsight, and you're realizing how much you were being helped. And it
Yeah.
was crazy in the moment, but I have to say, I believe I can take on things that previously I didn't know if I could take on. So that's been
Absolutely.
really, yeah, a really maturing, lovely experience. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great to look back and go, wow, look what I did without, because you were in so much less effort. You're in that place of trust, receptivity to all the different levels of help and support,
Mhm.
energetically and physically. And two, you said it improved your relationship with your mom too in the process. So you got all these miracles from the whole thing.
All these beautiful healings.
Yeah.
Yeah, there it really shifted a lot of the dynamics for her and I. So that's great moving forward.
So the challenges might seem greater, but the reward, the benefit, the healing, and the growth are,
And our ability to
yeah,
work the energy and to move through it and to have faith in ourselves.
yes,
I would say that for all of us who have been on this journey for some time, like, I think all of us have the different lessons. They come in different forms, but
yeah.
we're all learning that, and we're all getting more strength, and it's a beautiful growing. Yeah.
Yeah, we get to see how capable we are. What's that saying? You won't be given more than you can handle? That's
Yeah.
probably not exactly the words. And sometimes that might, frustrate people like, oh. But when you're not in resistance, again, that resistance piece, when you're just surrendering and allowing and opening up that space of trust and just validating, how capable you are and how much support you have.
Yeah, and it was interesting during that time, I didn't have time for extra stuff. So the focus became on what do I need to do today? Let's get that done. And I can't worry about, I couldn't take anything personally. Okay, that person can't do that. Okay, who can do that?
Yeah.
And it was a really wonderful on task, I'd say, experience to go through that, because all that other stuff that we tend to consume our time with didn't it just kind of went by the wayside because there was literally no time for it.
Well,
And that was a big learning for me too. Like,
okay.
where do you want to focus? What
Yeah.
do you want to put your energy on?
Yeah, it was a great practice in that focus, that clarity, and grounding. The whole thing was very grounded. You weren't off like, oh.
Yeah, I was going to say I couldn't have gotten it done
Yeah.
if I had been. Yeah,
Yeah.
it had to be it had to be grounded.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's where we get to demonstrate all that we've learned, right? Is just bringing it into our daily lives and what we're here to accomplish.
Yeah.
Even if it looks like the mundane, doesn't have to be, some glorious accomplishment. It's just knowing this is what we're here for, taking care of each other, taking care of our family.
Yeah, I agree.
And that gets to be just with greater ease and simplicity. That's wonderful. It's a good reminder of what's possible, that miracle space, and that healing space.
Yeah.
And now we can take those tools of grounding and running energy, what does that look like just out in the world, in our lives, in the things that we need to accomplish in our lives? It looks like the energy of what we're doing is grounded and there's flow and movement. Like you said, you couldn't spend a lot of time on, oh, that person can do it, just move on, right? Move on to the next thing. Keep the energy moving and letting go.
Letting go. Yeah. And
Right?
allowing as much
Everything.
help and support as you can. Yeah.
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 Got to be moving and flowing and letting go. So what other ways have you noticed just how your whole path up until now, how that's showing up in your life, everything that you've learned and accomplished? It's like this culmination, right, of all of your life learning, and now you're getting to demonstrate that, and it's like a path of mastery, right, of demonstrating all this learning and then living it, right? Not in some glorious way, just in your daily living, in your daily relationships and work and life.
Last summer we had some forest fires. Everybody did, right?
Oh, yeah.
And in Lyons, Colorado, there were some fires. And there's an area up there I still like to go hiking in quite a bit because there's not as many people. Colorado has a lot of people now. So it's one of the places I can go where it's still pretty quiet and there's always deer and wildlife and it's just quite beautiful. And I'll go and really connect in with nature. And there's a practice that I actually do where I'll say these attunements.
Nice.
I'm on a spiritual path where we do attunements. And so I'll say these attunements to nature, to the trees, and it's sort of like when you say a namaste, like I bless the God in you, or I see the God in you. It's like giving a blessing to every piece of nature that I can think of, the grass, the path, the rocks, the wildflowers, everything and anything. And then as you bless them, you start getting an echo and you can feel them loving you back.
Yeah, you get a response.
Yeah, you get this response. And so you're in this field of unity consciousness, which is, if you follow any of the people that are talking about the new earth or our ascension process, unity consciousness is one of those key words. And that's where we're in our heart, we're helping others, we're thinking beyond our own personal self for the good, right?
And we're in communication. I love what you were demonstrating. It's like you're saying hello and they say hello back.
So that echo comes back and I'm in that whole field of consciousness. Yeah. And so on that hike, right after the fires, when it felt safe enough, I wanted to go up and see how everything was. And I wanted to give it a blessing and just do some healing work with the land. And so I went up and I saw this group of 5 deer, this little family that I see quite often. And they were all laying down. And that's unusual that they're all laying down. And so I just sort of stood by them for a few minutes, and I was sort of just asking, if I could help or if they needed anything. And the little female was out front, and then the big male was in the back. And then there were some, I don't know if they were brothers and sisters or some part of the herd were kind of around her. And I was looking into her eyes, and she had so much pain coming off of her eyes.
Mm.
And I could tell that she was uncomfortable having me that close to her. I walked physically away, and I just had my back to them, and I was just talking to them, giving them space. And it seems that she had gotten too much smoke inhalation from the fires.
Yeah.
And so she was sick. She was not feeling well, and everybody around her was just supporting her. So I was grounded her, and I gave her a healing, and I was helping to clear anything and everything that she would allow me to.
Yeah.
And then I went on my way and did my walk. And then on the way back, I checked in with her again and did the same thing with my back to her. I just walked by them respectfully, had my back to her, just checked in with her. And then for the rest of the week, she would come in
Yeah.
into my energy field. Often when I was running energy, sometimes when I was working with clients, sometimes when I was driving or just on hiking, just random times,
Yeah.
and ask for a healing. And I would just help clear anything that she would allow.
Yeah.
And then I went back, I think the next week, kind of as soon as I could get back, the next day off that I had. And they had all left and traveled, and she was well enough to go wherever she went.
Yeah.
And then I went back another 3 weeks or so, and I got to see them again.
Oh,
so
good.
that was one of the beautiful things.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, just using our skills that we've all learned just to help, just because we can.
Because we can, yeah. And there's that space of receiving too. Like you were saying, when you say hello, you always get a hello back from nature, from animals.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
that space of unity consciousness is that oneness and that hello back and forth. So you're both giving and receiving. You get blessed too, right? It's like you're showing up as the giver, but you're receiving just as much.
Well, and I think for people who are healers, that's part of the catch for us, because that feeling of someone being helped or someone having that light bulb moment, there's nothing better. There's nothing better for a healer. It's that sense of, oh, I'm doing what I came on this planet to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little celebration moment, like, yay!
Yeah. By just being who we are in our authentic self.
Just showing up as we are, saying hello. I love, though, in that example you gave, that you recognize that on that body level, she had that fear, right? Human approaching too close.
Yeah.
Back off. So you knew, like, oh, I can say hello from a greater physical distance so you don't scare her. But then she was receptive and checked in with you. And yeah, the animals really go through a lot with all the smoke. I mean, we all do, with all the wildfires that seem to be increasing every summer. But it's really great to send healing to all the creatures living with so much smoke inhalation as well.
And I was just so pleased that she came back for more healing in spirit, and that it helped her to go on and live a great, whatever life she's going to live. That part's really fulfilling too.
Yeah, it's so fulfilling as a healer to know that your work, your giving, is beneficial and shifting outcomes for people, for sure, and animals and creatures. Whoever
Well, and just on that level of the world, people are having a hard time. And if you can just open your heart a little bit and just offer some sort of token, and if they can just allow themselves to receive it and just feel a little bit better, that kind of ripples out, out.
The ripple effect of just alleviating a little bit of suffering here, alleviating a little bit of suffering here, it has a great ripple effect. It expands out, because then that person or creature having just a little bit of suffering alleviated could then alleviate a little bit of suffering for someone else. It lifts the load for everyone. It lightens the load, for sure. Beautiful. So you work with the deer and the wildlife as an animal communicator. I love that we have an official title for that, animal communicator. We
Yeah.
need these official titles, right? But really just as a healer, as an aware person, as a psychically sensitive, aware soul, you're saying hello. And as a giver.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking too of like all the pets you work with. Are they mostly dogs and cats? Any farm animals or horses?
I've done horses, yeah, for sure. And when I was in a little school, I did a little training to become an animal communicator. Each week, she would have us read something different. So I've read bunnies and birds and snakes, and it's fun because they all have personalities and something to say.
Yeah.
And I didn't know, I hadn't really thought of that before.
Does each type of animal communicate in a different way? Is it pretty similar across the board, or is it like, oh, snakes are like this and horses are like this?
No, I think it was more they had the ones in my experience, they just had different personalities for that little soul, whatever that little soul was. I think the bunny that I talked to knew it had a short lifespan and it thought it was the greatest thing because then it would get to come back again. And see, as a human, you wouldn't think that, but it was like all new and fun because it's, we all like new adventures.
Yeah.
So that's how the bunny saw its lifespan, a new adventure.
Yeah, that's such a great healing for the people reading it because enthusiasm, like, wow, look how much enthusiasm it has. It's not about the duration. It's just like, it's about quality, right?
Yeah, I'm going to go on this trip and then I'll go on this trip.
Yeah.
Who knew? Yeah, who knew?
That's great. I do a little bit of animal communication, not as an official title, but just, when I encounter animals in my own pets. And I just love the gift of each communication. There's always something like you notice with the bunny, that enthusiasm. With my dogs, it's always just so much love and forgiveness. Like they don't hold on to anything,
No.
It's just always the joy and the love is right there, right? Even if somebody's having a bad day or they had something, well, the worst thing that could happen for them is I call them inside when there's a squirrel.
It's a pretty good life.
Oh my God, I wanted to go chase the squirrel. Nope, it's time to come in. But they're just so forgiving, right? In the moment. So there's
and when they see you, it's the greatest part of their day. That's the cute thing. That's the cute thing about dogs too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a healing having dogs are such healers. Yeah, you get that enthusiastic welcome, like you're the coolest person in the world and you're here right now. And I love you. And just the enthusiasm in every cell of the body, right? Just to the point of like wagging their tail so much they can't. It's like wagging right out of their body. Just like, oh my gosh. This is that total vibration. Cats are a whole nother.
Oh, yeah, cats. Oh, you're home again? Okay.
Very different type of hello, but they tune right in. I feel like cats are good teachers in boundaries and self-care, right? This is what I need. This is what I don't need.
And that's enough right now. That's enough.
Just the right amount.
Yeah, and they're really good at just like, nope, I don't want to communicate with you right now.
Yeah, they know exactly what they need, and they're not afraid to tell you.
So that can be a good learning if somebody needs that too.
For sure, my cat is a great teacher in boundaries and self-care, right? Getting my needs met, whether it's what you need or don't need, and very clear communication.
Very.
Unapologetically clear communication. They're not worried about hurting somebody's feelings when, they make it clear.
Not at all. And that's one of the things I've always liked about cats is because if I can win it over, it feels like a win.
Oh, a huge win, yeah.
Because they're totally discerning. Like, I'm not going to mess with you. Nope, I don't want you right now. Nope.
Right.
Yeah, so you have to work for it.
Oh, wow. You feel really special if a cat likes you. Like, wow.
Yeah, and with a dog, it's just you're going to take it for granted. Yeah.
Of course they're going to like you, yeah.
They're like everybody.
Yeah, if a dog doesn't like you, then you know something's really off, Because that happens. My dogs are pretty discerning, but generally they like everybody. But when they don't, I'm like, oh, there's a vibe there. They're picking up on something unsafe. What else have you learned from animals in your animal communicating?
So I was doing this reading for a dog who is scared to death of lightning and thunder. And so her mom has done a million things, like the greatest mom ever. She made a little hidey hole in the closet, and she's bought several dog beds, and she has these like safe places. And the dog, somehow the dog just, none of them were working for the dog.
Yeah.
So I was doing a reading for this dog, and I was showing her kind of like the aura bubble that would go into her grounding cord, right? Because her aura bubble would go up above her body, and then she wouldn't feel safe.
Yeah.
And so she showed me an umbrella that was see-through. Right. And so I was like, okay, we'll use that tool if you like that better. And so we'd have her go underneath the umbrella.
Yeah.
And that was her safe place anytime there was thunder and lightning.
Nice.
And so I told her mom that that's what she wanted. And we're going to do that tool. And her mom knew how to kind of imagine that tool in her mind to remind the dog to use that kind of like invisible see-through umbrella. Yeah. And the mom used to work with an animal communicator in our Boulder community who had passed away and had given the tool to the dog years before.
Oh, I love that.
So we had this beautiful moment. It was a Brajana moment. We had a beautiful moment of tribute to Brajana.
I love that. Aww.
And for Sashi the dog, who reminded us about that tool.
The umbrella.
So it was a healing. Mom got a healing, and Brajana got to come in for a moment.
Yeah.
And Sashi got to have
recognized for her work.
It was just one of those beautiful moments, like a full circle moment. One of those really lovely healings.
That's great. And just to bring in your psychic team, just because someone dies doesn't mean they're still on, right?
Yeah, she was still ready to work and being helpful. Isn't that great?
I love that. Being psychic means that we can communicate whether the body's here, whether it's alive, dead, in another location.
Actually, when my dad passed, after I went back to Colorado for the funeral, and then I went back into Brazil, and I was sitting my first morning in Current, and Dad came in spirit, and he said, I had no idea anything like this existed, or that you were doing what you were doing. And I was working as a medium. I was helping to lift off some energies that weren't helpful for people.
Right.
And I said, well, hi, Dad. I said, you're welcome to come in anytime. And he said, okay, thanks. And he split.
He's like, good to know. I'm going to leave.
And that was so much like my dad anyway. He just couldn't quite have it.
Right.
He just couldn't quite have it, but it flew his mind.
Yeah, but that's cool that he got to discover it after he passed. He's like, what are you up to? Wow.
And then I have another one with Dad. Maybe a couple months later, I had been in Brazil for some time. Yeah, maybe a year later or something. I went to Rio just to get a break from Abba. I had first learned about Brazil. I wasn't really that interested ever in going to Brazil, but we got the Smithsonian magazine. My family got that. And I saw the Christ the Redeemer statue.
Oh, yeah.
And I learned that it was in Rio, and I learned that Rio was in Brazil. So that's kind of what I knew about Brazil when I went the first time. I didn't really know much. Yeah. So I went to Rio, and I went to the Christ the Redeemer, and I went to this beautiful beach. I think it was Ipanema. And my dad came in there. And so this is the first year when of his passing. He said, you made it, honey. And I said, yeah, I made it. He said, it's beautiful here. Yeah. Wow. So we had one of those little moments, and he was just, on some level, he lived vicariously through me because I've traveled so much, and he kind of always wanted to. But he got married young and had the mortgage and, the 2 kids and all the responsibility. Fun little moments.
Yeah, I get to visit you when you're traveling, and fortunately now in spirit, he can travel anywhere. Pop in and wow, look how beautiful this is.
Yeah, I haven't looked to see what his plan is for another lifetime.
Yeah.
Maybe you can do that, Jean.
Okay.
I think I'm too close. I think I'm too close
Yeah,
to
no,
it,
it's
to be
always
clear.
easier to look at something that's not so close to
Yeah.
you. It's harder to see ourselves and our close family members. Thank you so much, Brooke, for having this conversation with me. It's been so good to spend this time with you and laugh with you.
It's been so great to connect with you again. We need
Yeah,
to do this more often and
for
laugh and
sure.
just, yeah.
Yes.
Just, I'm so happy that you're doing this, Jean.
Yay. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to The Higher Vibe. We will see you next time.
Hello, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you watching. I hope you enjoyed what you saw. If you did, go ahead and hit like and subscribe. Share this with friends. Really helps us out and we really appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing you next time.